back. It's still sunrise, and now we're going to look at the state of the nation. A lot of has been happening around the country, and religious, political, and all sorts of things have happened, and we need to put our hands on this. And we have with us in the studio a pastor, the senior pastor of Kingsway International Christian Church, Pastor Nigeria Ashimolowo. Thank you so much for being with us.
My honor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the state of the nation.
Yes.
Looking at our country, Nigeria.
Yes.
What do you see now?
Well, I'm 60. I still remember the euphoria of the celebration of the independence. I was 8 years old, so I have vivid memories. And for the first time, I'm really concerned and I have tremendous trepidations and fears for the future. Firstly, because there is a major systemic failure. Secondly, because there is a major, and I think this is even the most important, there is a major leadership failure. Because every nation rises or falls, every institution rises or falls to the quality of its leadership. You can be a nation without any much resources, but if you have a great leadership, people might not even know. Many don't realize that there are no natural resources to countries like Belgium, and yet they are in the forefront. In fact, they are not going through the current economic crisis which some European nations are facing. And whereas they have challenges like we do, about 4 or 5 languages. There are the Flemings, there are the French, and there are the Dutch, and yet, but because of quality, harmonious, visionary leadership that are ready to take risk and that are ready to forge a path, the nation is able to move forward. And the challenge with Nigeria is that as it is, it must not suffer refugee status. Because if it does, where do you want to pour to?
160 million people.
You will overwhelm any which way you go. From here to Accra, it's not more than Lagos State alone. From here to Accra, it's not more than Lagos State alone. And we have a notoriety when it comes to our behavior outside of our shores. So some of these people may not really quite celebrate us if there is a refugee status. So there is a leadership crisis.
So the leadership crisis, why do you think leaders fail in Nigeria?
Leaders fail for several reasons. And I think the first is if there is no clarity of vision as to where they are going and therefore taking people there. Secondly, when it comes to Nigeria, there is a problem. Many people get to positions of leadership in Nigeria because for them, leadership is positional and not functional. Whereas leadership should be functional and not primarily positional. Because if you celebrate the position, then you miss the purpose for the which you were there. When my captain is in the plane taking me somewhere, I don't want to know if he's the most senior captain in the airline I'm flying. I just want to be sure he is very functional, he knows where he's going, and from takeoff to arrival, he will ensure that we get there safely, applying all his abilities. So that even where there's gallops, he even helps to assure me that, yeah, there are gallops, there's turbulence, this plane was built to handle the issue, we will get there. Sometimes he may even see some problems, but he doesn't need to get on the speaker and say, ladies and gentlemen, our radio is not working. We're running down on fuel. If you know how to pray, please start praying. Boy, people will be dead in the plane. We seem to have a challenge where we do not have the kind of leadership that is able to say, yeah, there are issues on this on the ground. There is no nation without issues, but we are bringing together a concerted effort to achieve the vision which we have in the first place. If you ask me what is the vision of Nigeria, I don't know.
Okay, now let's put a hold on that very quickly. There is this saying that a nation deserves the leadership it gets.
I think it is unfair. I've heard that statement. I used to remember one guy used to say it on Patito's gang.
Yeah.
He'll say, if you like it or not, people get the leadership they deserve. I think it's a nice one-liner, but it is a hurtful one-liner. 70 million Nigerians have no job. They need a leader who creates the atmosphere for SMEs to rise, small and medium scale industries. They need a leader who creates the atmosphere for them to be able to get affordable education. So for you to say a nation gets the leadership it deserves, so you are saying 160 million people deserve a leadership that does not take them further. So I don't think that statement is fair.
Would it be fair then if those people who will make a statement like that, if they say that 70 million Nigerians unemployed without due proper employment, even those who end up selling recharge cards, it's not really a good
It's
job.
not.
It's not. But when you have that situation, what were they doing when the people that were being elected were being elected?
I think the challenge with Nigeria is that there are several angles to the systemic failure. When you want to blame the electorate and say, well, after all, you voted the people in, the first thing is the Nigerian electorate is just becoming more politically savvy, and he now knows how to choose. I don't know everything, but in my opinion, the last two elections, Edo State, Ondo State, seem to show some savviness. And where the level playing field is fair, the people will change the leaders they don't want. I think many times there has not been fairness, and that is why we probably are the most, we are the country that has the greatest amount of litigation after our election, because the system is porous, the process is weak, and the very problems and experienced during one particular election repeats itself again. I mean, look, for example, right now we're talking about the flood across Nigeria, and everybody's carrying relief around. There'll be rain again next year.
Yes.
Well, it is not the relief alone that we need. Leadership is about looking down the road 5-10 years and saying, by the nature of certain states in this country, there is chance of flooding. Let's put a drainage system, a dredging system that directs the water back to rivers, rivers direct it back to the sea. I'm not an engineer. I'm just speaking as a pastor. However, the Yoruba say, "Ojumonto yono." When you look at the situation, you can tell. We have this fire brigade approach in Nigeria. There must have been up to 20 billion raised to meet the need of the refugees from the flood. Will the environment stop pouring out water next year? Have we seen any construction going on to guard against flooding next year? And oh, by the way, have you noticed that the whole flooding, apart from a little part of Asaba, there was no capital that was flooded? Why? Because the drainage system works well. Our governments have a habit as if Abuja is secure, Nigeria is secure. No. I can't drive to my state. But the armed robbers take over Lagos-Ibadan expressway by 2 p.m.
Yes.
And we are, so don't focus on where you are. You are not to be just a head. You are to be functional. When you provide this system for the people, at a point, you'll find that those who want to take advantage will not be able to. However, the challenge is when leadership fails, some people like it because the atmosphere of disorder helps them to make more money, to take advantage. Somebody always prefers disorder in any place.
Okay, just before we move away from the issue of leadership,
Yes.
what do we need to do in Nigeria to begin to raise the right set of leaders for our nation?
I think the first thing we need to do is to look into the institutions from where leaders evolve. One, educational. And therefore, when we go into our educational institutions, we should, I think the National Assembly should, number one, raise the budget. Number two, have the committee that is strong enough to look truly that the infrastructures it asked to be paid for are being paid for. Number 3, the curriculum. Number 4, the young people who are the institutions also, a certain demand should be placed on them. Then another institution is like maybe, for example, the National Youth Service. It should not just be a thing where you make young people during that 1 year run around teaching secondary school. It should be a time when the army is brought in to teach them security, statesmanship, citizenship, so that if I am a graduate, I went to NYSC, if I'm working in a bank, because of my training, I can see an armed robber before he even operates, because it was part of the process. When you now engage these institutions in the training for the future, then an evolution will take place. Unfortunately, we have a situation where some people have hijacked the political system, and if it is not being given to their godsons, it is given to their real sons.
You've mentioned that strong committees should be set up to look into some of these things. I'm sure the country is not in any shortage of committees.
No, I'm talking of the National Assembly.
Okay, so how do we, sometimes reports come out of these committees and they're not just kept, I'm sure under the carpet is full right now for reports. What else do you think can be done in that area?
That's why I said at the end of the day, the institutions, and part of the institutions who will bring the change will have to also be parents who themselves take the decision that, look, I want my children to come out right, and I'm going to first of all be a good example. I will not be part of the system that brings down the nation. I don't think many people realize that as it is now. One of the make or break seasons of Nigeria is 2015. It is going to be probably the most shaken. It's going to be the critical path for this nation if it ever survives. Firstly, because of the political terrain. Secondly, because the systems are broken down. Thirdly, because you have people who are saying, do or die. This is what we want.
Okay, still talking about